All right. Looks like we have a quorum, so we can start in just 1 minute. Perfect.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Joe.
Hi, everyone.
Jim. All right, Brenda, we're good to go, right?
Yes.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order. Good evening, everybody. Brenda, would you start with roll call, please?
Yes. Board Member Brisky.
Present.
Board Member Mercier. Board Member Ridley.
Present.
Board Member Roth.
Present.
Board Member Freeman. Council Member Anderson.
Present.
Council Member Woodward.
Present.
Mayor Sierra.
Present.
Vice Chair Hubenick.
Present.
Chair Moore.
Present. All right, thank you. For our first agenda item, would like to get a motion for the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on August 9th.
So approved.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Brenda, do we have anyone that would like to address us in the public forum?
We do not.
Okay, then we will move on to new business. Item 5A. We just have some contracts we need to address tonight. And Sarah, I think the mic is yours, right?
It is. Good evening, everyone. So I will be running the meeting from the utility side tonight. Peter is at the World Water Congress in Denmark, actually this week. He got some grant funding to go out there with an engineer from SPR. So he's out there this week. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can everyone see the presentation there?
Yes.
Great. All right, so the first and actually only action item tonight is emergency on-call water line repair services. So real quick, I wanted to give a little bit more background on water main breaks and the information that our distribution and collections group is collecting as far as when we send a contractor out to fix a repair or if we send staff out. So I'll give a little bit more background today, and then I'll go into the 3 contracts that we have for your consideration tonight. On the meeting, we have Josh Roach as Interim Deputy Director of O&M, and so he's available to answer any questions at the end of the presentation as well. Moving on to water main break backgrounds. This is a 5-year trend in the water main breaks. This graph is looking at the total number of breaks we've had since 2017. So as you can see, the trend is increasing over those last 5 years. To date, we have reached 58 water line breaks in 2022, and the AWWA standard per 10,000 customer accounts should be 34. So with our just over 11,000 customer accounts, we are nearly double that standard as of right now in 2022, and we still have the last quarter of the year to go. So based on this data and some of the information that's been collected by the distribution and collection groups, we're really projecting we might get closer to 70 by the end of this year. So in addition to tracking the number of breaks, we are also tracking the location. So this map demonstrates the 204 water main breaks that we've had over the last 5 years with little X's on the map. We're using this information to really identify any hotspots and prioritize those mains that continually break for whatever reason that is, so that we can put those into the capital plan and really dial in that capital replacement of water lines over the next several years. So if we take for example, we'll zoom in here on the south side of the city to this line. Actually, let me go to the next slide here. This line is between the South Platte River and Shenango, and that's a 16-inch water main. And the 5-year history, you can see there's quite a few X's, along this main, and there's been a record of 21 failures since 1997. So this is a high priority project. We're going to go ahead and put this into our plan for next year. It's in the 2023 budget as a line that we'd like to replace. So design for this is likely to start later this year in 2022. So these two graphs just give us a little bit of insight onto what's causing pipe breaks. Ferrous or iron materials make up 95% of the material, pipe material in the system. There's several, or the majority of the system is in need of repair. And so those break causes are due to corrosion or pressure splits. Some of it's service line failures. And there's full circle breaks. And so corrosion is causing a significant factor in why we're in need of replacing much of the distribution system moving forward. So since these contracts haven't been in place, we've also been looking at the total cost of if we send a contractor or we address the breaks by utility staff. So since 2021, I think these contracts went into place initially in 2021. We've got a good full year of data of the total amount that we've spent on contractor line replacement, which has been close to $300,000. And then for utilities staff to address those line breaks, it does cost less at $122,000. And then if we look at the average cost per event, we're at $11,000 per contractor and about $5,000 for utility staff. So taking a look at the total number of breaks this year, we've repaired 28 of those through a contract, and 24 of them have been done internally by utility staff. So next, looking at the break response, we'd like to optimize it. And we think that now with the data that we do have over the last couple of years, that we can optimize these contracts and set them at a level we think is appropriate for a full year of addressing line breaks. So there's several considerations we've taken into account. There's staff vacancies. Typical breaks require 5 staff members, depending on the severity of the break. That might be the entire distribution and collection staff that day that's available that day. So and then the other issue that we have is that breaks often happen after work hours or on weekends. So having on-call contractors available to address those after hours incidents is advantageous to keeping staff available for regular. Sorry, I just got a text about the meeting. Okay. So one of the things that we'd like to also take a look at with staff when they're not addressing breaks is preventative maintenance, so we can work to get the high priority mains addressed before they break. Okay, so our path forward, so following the master plan in 2020, there's several programs that have been identified. There was the valve inspection and exercising hydrant flushing and testing, conversion from flat rate accounts to meter accounts, lead service line replacement. So all of that are priorities of DNC staff. And so putting that in their court is ideally the way we want to move forward when we're optimizing on-call contracts for line breaks, as well as their time devoted, or the contractor's time devoted to line breaks. We also are going to incorporate asset management over the next several years that expands this data that we've collected for the last 5 years. So we're going to focus on programmatic maintenance, hire technical staff. We interviewed someone recently to be an asset specialist that will be really in charge of taking this data and really prioritizing the capital plan following what the data is telling us. And then we'll also use the asset management to develop systematic programs and a structure moving forward. So moving on to the emergency on-call water line repair services. So the contractor selection was performed in November 2021. We had a request for proposals and selected 3 contractors that we then entered into on-call contracts in the end of 2021 and through 2022. So those were Brannan, CNL, and Global. And we'd like to enter into contracts with these contractors again, moving forward for the rest of 2022 and into 2023. So to summarize, we've had 58 breaks since January 2022. About half of those have been addressed by the on-call contracts and half addressed by staff. So we feel that a $200,000 contract for each of these contractors is appropriate moving forward through the end of 2023. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions for me or for Josh.
Jim, you want to go ahead?
Yes, first off, are we fully staffed currently for repairs?
Josh, do you want to jump on? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can't hear Josh.
Sarah, do you want to go ahead and take the slides down?
Oh, sure.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear Jim. I think we're waiting for Josh.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay.
Josh, you've got your mute symbol is on. There we go. Oh, still not working.
I don't think we got you. So I'll try to take this one. We have 2 positions in the 2023 budget for field services tech to fill out those distribution and collection crews. There's 2 crews. So I believe, Josh, and you can nod your head, we're staffed up to the 2022 level, but we will have 2 additional positions opening in 2023 following approval of the budget.
Okay. So
I guess, oh, sorry.
Are we
sorry, Jim.
Are we short any right now then, or are we fully staffed? I'm just wondering, it seemed that when we use our own staff, it's considerably cheaper. And it almost, I mean, somebody would have to do the math to really understand if it made sense to add enough different people to do those repairs. And that's what I was trying to find out.
Josh, we had you for a second.
How about now?
There we go.
Okay, yeah. So it is a considerably cheaper to do it in-house, but it's at a pretty substantial cost to everything else we have to do in the system. And also it kind of requires the majority of our staff to fix a break. So we really have to stop everything we're doing to go do that at the moment. So we do that about half the time right now, but there's a whole lot of times where we're just not able to fix the repair ourselves in-house, because throughout the year we have had quite a few positions that were open. We are almost a full staff now, so we try our very best to fix the breaks in-house, but there's just times that we're not able to. Also, if we fix them all in-house, that means we're not doing stuff like hydrant maintenance and valve maintenance and all the other stuff we have to do to maintain our system. So we work hard to do them ourselves. There's just times where we just really cannot, or doesn't make sense to, so we have to kind of rely on some contractors to help us out. Like was said earlier, we are increasing by 2 FTEs at the beginning of the year. So I expect that to help us to do that. But as of right now, we kind of need this support from the on-calls because there's lots of other stuff to do besides fix water breaks.
Okay, so then at the end of, in 3 years from now or 4 years, when we're complete with all the capital stuff that we are doing and that sort of thing, I would assume that breaks will go way down and we probably won't have to have these types of contracts.
Breaks will go down as we do these capital projects, but it's a long-term goal to get that to happen. You're talking, so we historically have not done any of this kind of work before. So we're starting these capital projects now. And I mean, these are 10 to 15 year kind of things to get to where you need to be to even to get caught up to where we should be. So it's definitely not a 2 or 3 year kind of plan to get caught up. It's more of a long-term 10 to 15 to 20 year kind of plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Drevis, you're up.
All right. I had a couple, but he answered one in the middle of that. So as you're replacing and going along the line, I'm assuming you're replacing it with something other than iron.
Yes, absolutely. We replace that with PVC pipe usually, which is much better. It lasts much longer. It's much more durable than the iron pipe is, the ferrous pipe.
Okay, and then I couldn't tell, I printed up the map before, but what is the impact of this area, in particular along Chenango to the Platte, of adding apartment buildings to an area that has not had the piping worked on?
The impact to ads like that, so there wouldn't be much impact to that because when the pipe does break, we can go fix it. So it doesn't really impact the current people there, with the exception of, we have to shut the water off occasionally to fix that pipe. But if we were to replace that pipe, then obviously that would take care of that need.
Okay. And we set aside the money for these other contractors, and then if they don't use it by the end of the year, does it roll over into the next year?
Sarah, I think I know the answer, but you probably know better than I would.
Yeah, so anything that's not spent in 2022 just remains in the enterprise fund and then is available for next year. So we're not trying to spend a certain level this year because we would roll it into the next year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll just follow up on something Jim said. I mean, it's kind of interesting to the extent that the condition of our system tells us we have 10 or 15 years of repairs to expect. I mean, it does make an argument for adding further staff, whatever that is, that we know we expect to spend on contractors otherwise. It's not like a 1 year, it's not like you're hiring an employee for 1 year and then having to remove that position. Seems like we got enough ahead of us that there'd certainly be an argument for more FTEs, it sounds like, but that's just a comment.
Can I make a comment to that?
Yeah.
Chair. So I would agree. I would tend to agree. And I think with adding the 2 new staff next year, we'll even refine, that level of on-call that we might need in future years as we get more data.
Yeah. I had 2 other quick ones. The 2020 was a much better year relative to 21 relative to 22 based on those numbers. Is it a weather issue or is there just a fluke? Any ideas why we're double this year over last year?
It's always hard to predict because we don't, ever really know the exact reason. But lots of times things just happen. I think the biggest reason that you could see that's sort of a spike or a dip is probably because of the weather. The majority of our breaks occur when it gets really cold, and then it quickly kind of heats back up. So it gets cold and heat. It makes the ground shift a lot. So it is kind of dependent upon the weather. But it is really kind of hard to predict the exacts of why a pipe fails. I mean, essentially it's because it's old. It's been in the ground for 60, 70 years and it needs to be replaced. But it's hard to really know the exact reasons for that.
Very good. All right, let me actually, can we put the, well, you know what, I can do it. I'm sorry, I was gonna say, but yeah, there we go. That'll help, although we don't have all the details on there. But it's from the agenda. If we could I get a motion to recommend that City Council approve by motion Water Sewer Board agenda items 5A1 through 5A3 as written, and they're spelled out in more detail on the agenda.
I'll move.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Very good. I lost my screen, but I think we're moving on to old business. Yes, water efficiency plan. Back to you, Sarah.
Yes, so I will also present this item. I just wanted to note, though, we have Stephanie Ellis, one of the utilities engineers, and Tara Meininger and Christy Radbar from Martin and Wood, who are our water rights engineers, and they were instrumental in preparing the water efficiency plan. And so they are available after the presentation to answer any questions. Share my screen here. And again, this is just an informational item. This is a follow-up from last month. We had this on the agenda as well. We wanted to give a quick presentation and background to our water efficiency plan findings to the Water Sewer Board, because we are putting this, or have put this plan out for public comment as required by the state. So a little bit about the 2022 Water Efficiency Plan. The Water Conservation Act of 2004 requires the water utilities to have a state-approved water efficiency plan that is updated every 7 years. Our first plan was approved in 2013 and requires an update. So in 2021, utilities received a $20,000 grant from the Water Conservation Board, Colorado Water Conservation Board, to update the plan. So this update to the plan kicked off in December 2021. The draft plan has now been developed and we have it out for public comment, and we're seeking input from various stakeholders as we finalize the plan. So utility staff is reviewing it. It's now been sent to the Water Sewer Board, as well as City Council. There's the Sustainability Commission is getting a chance to review it as well. Actually, Stephanie, Tara, and Christy are presenting to them, to the commission tonight, the same presentation. And then we've put it out to community development, to the Englewood citizens through our website. And then it's also currently being reviewed by the Colorado Water Conservation Board. So a little background on what's in this graph. So this is our potable water use as percentage of the water production that's based on billing data. So over half, almost 60% of our water use is residential, and that's shown in the two blue colors here. The commercial and industrial uses are 22%. And then the other smaller categories, industrial or the municipal and other, that's city facilities and schools. And then the purple piece of the pie there is unmeasured end use water. So that does include those customers that are still on flat rates. So the benefits that we have developed or focused on through the water efficiency planning has been sustainability, the potential to reduce the water supply or capital needs for Englewood, the potential to reduce any water costs to the city, provides a resource for stewardship and drought resiliency, and it makes our water supplies available for potential growth. The 2022 draft plan includes programs and provides a framework for Englewood staff to target its water efficiency goal. So over a 7-year implementation period, staff would target a 6% reduction in water demand. The current average usage per capita per day is 162 gallons in Englewood. So we'd target getting that down to 152 gallons per capita per day by 2029. So we believe this is a target that we can achieve in the 7-year implementation period. There are 29 water efficiency measures in the draft plan that really fit into 6 categories. So that's metering and billing, water loss control, staffing and planning, technical improvements and incentives, rules and ordinances, and customer education. So some of those highlights are increased customer education through outreach on our website and community events, recommended water fixture or appliance upgrades at municipal buildings, increased communication with developers that are installing multifamily and how they can incorporate water efficiency into their planning. Converting our flat rate customers to metered service, as well as performing a water reuse feasibility study. So this graphic demonstrates what our growth in water usage could be over time. So the orange line is with a expected population growth and without any of these water efficiency measures in place, we would grow from about 6,000 acre feet per year of usage to almost 6,500, whereas that flatlines quite a bit with the blue line if we incorporate the majority or all of the water efficiency improvements. So our next steps include a 60-day public comment period. The public comment opened up after the Water Sewer Board meeting last month. I think that the official date was August 18th, where it was posted on our website for public comment. There are also copies posted at city facilities and means to collect paper comments as well. We will keep that comment period open for 60 days. And after that point in time, we will compile those comments and incorporate it into a final document, which will then be sent to the Water Sewer Board for their review and approval in the fall. And then we will follow that with review and approval with council. We will also seek a final approval by the Colorado Water Conservation Board, and then work on implementing those efficiency measures through 2029. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
Marjan, go ahead. I'm not hearing anything.
I'm
There
sorry.
we go. Okay, there you go.
Hi, Sarah. I was wondering that does this have any kind of a relationship? Where can I educate myself to learn more about this? So does this have any kind of a relationship to the carbon footprint?
Stephanie, was that addressed in the plan at all?
I don't believe we addressed that in the plan, but they, the carbon footprint would be a different subject than this one. Our water efficiency plan is just focused on basically improving and reducing losses in our system, improving our ability to account for water in the system and better understand those losses and just to educate and others on how to reduce water. So
And
yeah.
go ahead. Well, I'll tell you what my concern is. My concern is that you see in a lot of areas that it's not shared the benefits that the consumers will have, the residents will have. It starts with a plan. Okay, and I want to know how much they're going to intervene in people's life of making decisions for them in the name of you complying to something that it actually takes their rights away, and then it puts people in categories. And then this category, then they're forcing the ones that are not cooperating component of this, then they're forced to go to that. So I need to read about details of this program. I also raised the question in my mind, why did we get this grant? How did we get it? Who made this motion of creating this plan? Because certainly it's not educational. For the purpose of the people, nobody requested it. Citizens didn't request this, did they?
So Marjan, I'll just comment on that. So this is a state required plan through,
Okay.
So we need to have an approved water efficiency plan as a water utility that is approved through the CWCB or the Colorado Water Conservation Board.
Let me write that down, Sarah. Thank you so much. This is required by Colorado. Colorado. Go ahead. Will you repeat it again, please?
Yeah, sure. It's the Colorado Water Conservation Board.
And are these a state? Is this a state company or is this like a nonprofit?
It is a state entity.
A state entity. Okay. So Colorado Water Conservation Conservation Community, is that?
Board.
Thank you so much. Will
And
you send me some stuff, Sarah, to read about this, please?
Yes, absolutely, Marjan. And I will also send you the link where the plan is located on our website and is open for public comment.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you.
Yeah, and we would love feedback from the Water and Sewer Board on our water efficiency plan. We will be coming back to you for final approval on this after finalizing the plan after that 60-day public comment period, which will end in approximately mid-October. And just to address one of your previous questions, we really tried to be thoughtful in the proposed water efficiency measures in the plan, and the stakeholder group or the group of our utilities staff that discussed these measures did try to consider impact to customers. And for example, some of the measures we steered away from were more of the rules and ordinances. And while there are some existing ones in place, that was an area where we steered away from a little more. And we kind of, our goal was more improvements that the utility can make and educational materials, things like that will encourage people rather than create rules that they have to adhere to.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I appreciate you.
No. All right, Ty, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious. There with a bunch of utilities putting out plans here for the same 7-year requirement. Have you looked at any of the other drafts that have been released recently? I know Greeley's is publicly available. Denver Waters isn't out there yet. But would we have time to change that if we see some great ideas or want to build some consistency between the municipalities?
Tara, can you help take this one?
Sure. Yeah, I've been reviewing some of the more recent plans. I think it was North Glen or Westminster's came out in 2020. But certainly it's a good idea to keep an eye on what others are doing and what might be working for others and kind of incorporate that. We definitely tried to tailor the list of programs to Englewood's staff availability and things that are actually achievable. So if we include something else, we'd run it by staff and make sure that is wanted to be on the list.
Thanks.
Good. All right. Sarah, I think we're good. Do you want to move on to staff's choice?
Okay, sure. So I have got a quick update on the 2022 Backflow and Cross Connection program. So as you recall, last year, we were providing updates monthly to the board as we tried to reach our compliance ratios for our cross connection and backflow program. So I do want to just touch on briefly the updates that we've made for 2022 and give you a status of where we are heading into the final quarter of the year. So for some of the program updates, we hired an environmental compliance coordinator just over a year ago. That was a position that was created to manage this type of program. So compliance for backflow fell under the specific position, and that person has really effectively managed the program through this year. And back in April, it was recommended to the board and then sent to City Council for approval to go ahead and have a third-party consultant help manage this program for us, as there are so many compliance things to keep track of for this compliance coordinator. So that third-party consultant was Backflow Solutions, or BSI. So they have been fully integrated and are performing the cross-connection control survey inspections. They're coordinating daily with the environmental compliance coordinator. They help with outreach to customers, and they're assisting in any remediation efforts to avoid uncontrolled cross-connection in the system that could lead to some kind of violation. So BSI also manages now our backflow maintenance tracking data. So they're keeping record of our backflow tests as they come in for 2022, and they now have that data available. We can access it at any time. It was previously being held in the billing system, which was just an inefficient way to have that that kind of data, because it doesn't really match with how the customers are billed. The other thing we did, and I put a little snapshot here, was we implemented a new informational website that is related to our cross-connection control and backflow prevention program. So on this site, customers can access what our testing requirements are, why we have to follow this for compliance, and what our program looks like. It also gives contact information and deadlines, and it's available on our website. So going to where we currently sit for this year. So we are on track, which is excellent news. We, for backflow testing, we currently at a compliance ratio of 82%. One of the new things we incorporated this year was requiring customers to send in their backflow certification by August 15th. And so, that deadline has obviously passed, and we're not at 100%. But 100% will be required by March. And the reason that extends into 2023 is that we are given the full year to reach 100%, but then also because certain systems can be turned off because of irrigation purposes over the winter, we have additional time in 2023 to reach that 100%. So for the remaining customers, there's 167. Those customers did receive a letter in the mail last week that let them know that their new deadline for submitting their compliance testing certification is October 9th. So any customers that do not meet that October 9th deadline will be contacted by utility staff via phone calls and emails and site visits. They will also potentially receive a red tag for shutoff if they remain not in compliance. So our plan moving forward is to place red tags on those that have not complied by October 17th. For those that have failed any any tests and submit those results to us. We then require 45 days to resolve it. The state actually allows 120 days. So we'll be working through those issues as well. So last year we also hung several rad tags to get response from customers, but we never really had to shut anyone off for non-compliance. We were able to receive or to get to the ratio of 100% for backflow testing. So moving on to cross-connection surveys. So we are completely overhauling the number of surveys that we had. The state requires us to have these cross-connection surveys available at any time, and those records were not intact. So we discussed with the state resurveying basically the entire city. So we are currently at 85% of that compliance. The state gave us until December 2022, the end of the year, to reach 100% compliance. So BSI is not only reaching out to customers, they are also doing those surveys so that we can ensure that we will reach compliance this year. We also had sent out requests from customers to send us those surveys. So any surveys that do come in do require either BSI or city staff to make sure that survey makes sense, investigate if it doesn't, so that it's not just getting the surveys and then calling it, done. We will have some follow-up work to do moving forward. So with that, I will stop sharing and answer any questions the board may have.
So far, no hands. Going once, going twice. Final subject. We can move on to the look ahead schedule, I think.
Sure. Yeah, so I just wanted to put this bullet on here. So our plan moving forward is to put a 3-month look ahead on a schedule that will be incorporated into the Water Sewer Board packet when it goes out. It'll be behind the agenda that looks at what are we trying to cover in each of the meetings for the next 3 months. I think it will help organize, our priorities moving forward and really give the board a good idea of where we're headed, because October is going to be a really full month. So, it's one of those that we would likely request extra time from the board as they are available, as we're bringing additional contracts and renewals to prepare for 2023. Don't have anything to present, so that's kind of the update there.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good addition, and I think it'll help us all look forward, plan a little bit down the road what we want to do. Yeah. Before we adjourn, any board member question? Anything the board members would like to bring up? All right, seeing nothing, then. Oh,
John, sorry.
Whoever that is, go ahead.
Just wondering about the taste of the water, because it's really bad again, to the point that it just tastes like you're licking dirt or drinking dirt. So I'm just wondering, is it just that time of the year like it always is, or just the challenges of treating our water, and that's why it tastes so terrible?
Yes, so this is related, like you said, to the time of the year. So, and rain events can also cause additional challenges for water treatment. So we have had some significant rain events that have provided some challenges for our treatment staff. Josh, I saw you turn your camera on. You want to add anything there?
Yeah, that's all true. But I'd just like to add that we are not okay with that. We don't just accept that as it is what it is, and it's what it's going to be. We have a lot of things in place that we're working on to improve water quality, some in the very short term, some in the long term. We don't have the time necessarily to go through all that, but maybe sometime in the future we can kind of tell you all the things we're doing, because we are doing a lot. It is very important to us to work on that, to fix that. It is a pretty top priority for us. So yes, there has been some issues recently, but like I said, we're not just okay with that. We don't just accept that as is.
Thank you.
Oh, got a couple hands. Jim, you want to go ahead? Jim, you're on mute. Jim, you're still on mute. There we go. Got it.
Question on, have we been able to identify where that ammonia that came into the wastewater treatment plant came from? If the company or whatever?
I was asked to look into that to help. That's more related to SPR. That's more of an issue for them. So they asked us if we look into that to see if we can find it. But no, I'm not aware of where that came from. We can get that information to you if they are aware though. But that's more of an SPR is working on that. That's more of their pre-treatment group that's more concerned with that and is working towards that, figuring out what the issue there was.
Okay. Yeah, I would be interested in finding out. I guess I'm kind of interested in knowing it coming into that treatment plant with 300,000 people and the total area is huge. How do you tell where it's coming from? How do you nail it down to what pipe it came in from and that sort of thing when they do get to it? So thank you.
Yes. I suspect it's very difficult, certainly, to figure out where exactly that came from, but I'm certain they're working on it.
Yeah, and I have a lot of confidence in you guys that you'll figure it out and let us know. Thank you.
Marjan?
Yes, Josh, thank you thank you for taking my question and concern. From what I understand from the water plant, the byproduct of the bacteria that is used in this process of cleaning water could create that byproduct, considering if the bacteria content is off. So that could be a source. I don't know if either one of you guys know that, but I know I'm scheduled to talk to the actual one of your scientists to figure out how this whole system, ecology of this system through bacteria system and then filtering system, the two different things. So I personally, because I have 9 filters on my drinking water, I don't go through these changes, and the reason I have the filters is because I don't have confidence about the water quality of the water. So, but it's good to hear that. Do you think that this coming from this situation with the bacteria content?
So I think we'll have to save that for another discussion. Neither Josh or I are able to answer those specific questions, but we're happy to get you in touch with the right people that can.
Yeah, last month I had a meeting with Peter and they said they're going to call me and schedule that, which I'm really anxious. I'm looking forward to that because I do understand. I ask a little bit questions that are more scientific and I don't expect you guys to answer, but I'm looking forward to that. And I just have one more question, Sarah. And this was a question I had, and it's a quick one. This backflow project, you guys address those to the commercial buildings. Am I correct about that?
That's correct. All commercial buildings need to have a backflow.
And can you explain to me why commercials versus residential, please? I mean,
it is just a state requirement that dictates that. It's not us that's saying that, it's the state that's telling us that's what we need to do.
And the purpose of it is that to see if the water doesn't contaminate. But if it does, then a residential has the same kind of a risk as a commercial does, correct?
Generally, they would not, because it's a house, or the same sort of stuff that would be in a commercial building wouldn't be entering the system. But to some degree, yes, there is a potential that a residential house could backflow into the
as well. Okay, so do you kind of forecast that this is something that is starting, and so then this eventually gets to the residentials?
I think that's a good point, but I would for sure if that's what the state's intentions are.
Okay, I appreciate all of you. I appreciate you answering my questions. Thank you so much.
All right. I don't see any further hand raised, so I will adjourn the meeting and wish everyone a good evening. Thank you.
Chair, sorry, Chair Moore.
Oh, yes.
There's a person from the public, Dana, that has their hand raised. Can you see that?
I am not able to. Oh, I do. Okay. We're a little ahead of schedule, so we can address that. Dana, would you like to speak to the board?
My name's Dana Liebert,
Dan.
and I've worked with parks on Englewood Parks on the Depot Prairie Park project. So I had one point of clarification from the draft of the water efficiency plan. The plan says that we have a projected savings of 73%. It's an actual savings that we have data to support that. And that was, so just to back up, that is, we replaced the turf in the park with low water native Colorado plants. And by doing that, in the first year of the project, we saved 73% of water over what it had been irrigated when it was Kentucky bluegrass turf. And that was still during the establishment phase. So our projected savings are 80 to 90% when the plants are mature.
Wow.
Hi, Dana, or is it
Hi,
Dana? or
Stephanie. Yeah, Dana.
Dana, okay. Yes, and I did see your email yesterday, and Tara and I are working on responses to all of your questions, but I do appreciate that you caught that, and we plan to update that for the final water efficiency plan.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll see you soon at Sustainability Commission.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
Dana.
you. All right. I will go a second shot at this. I do believe we are now adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Well.